together with Arindam. Oh, I didn't see your name here. Oh. Together with my friends, we are running the session today with Bruno, well famous Bruno Souza. Um, so who do we have today here? We have Arindam, we have Imran, right?
Yeah.
And Akshay.
Yes, yes.
Good,
Yes.
good. And for those who celebrated, Mubarak Ramadan. For those who celebrate Orthodox Easter, happy Easter. And for those who doesn't, well, let's celebrate a good day. We might be different in some things, but we're all doing open source, and that's beautiful. Oh, sorry. Hello, Dean.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
Good.
hi, Dean.
I
Hey,
just
yes.
realized your family name actually looks like your nickname.
Yeah, well, that's where it comes from. So,
How do you pronounce your nickname?
um, it's just Loftwise what most people say it. It was only ever written like it was my name from before we used to actually have microphones and stuff like that. So it never really came up until people started actually speaking to each other. But yeah, because when it's typed, it's easy to recognize. But yeah, saying it. Same with my family name, I guess. It's really difficult over the phone. If you're trying to spell it to someone, you've got like the worst letters for syllabants right after each other. But yeah.
So
First
yes,
one, yeah.
yeah. So Mikola and
Nicola is
Bruno
here.
will be joining soon. Oh, let me check. Oh, so you can see them. So I don't see Mikola yet joining. But yeah, today we have an honor of meeting Bruno Souza, one of the co-creators of the biggest Java news group. It's So Java. It's in Brazil. I think it's 50,000 people. He's also a Java champion, which is not an exam, as I explained to my friends. But it's other Java champions have to choose you for the. It's given for the impact. You don't necessarily know like all the latest, grammar. Although I know that Bruno knows a lot about Java, but you must have a huge impact or positive impact. It's maybe like AD and Kunal and us actually in a way, in many ways. Oh, Mikola, здоровенькі були. And
Hey, hi, Nicola.
happy Easter.
Thank you. Happy Easter, everyone.
Yeah, sorry, my suffering. I'll try to make it this way. Yeah, otherwise I was too big. I'm not that big. I'm just a part of the stuff. So yeah, so I didn't do much this week. I only did, I think, one exercise in Gradle, but on the other side, I've been very sick since Tuesday, I think. So yeah, don't. Yeah, Bruno will join. Yeah.
Oh, you? Okay.
So yeah, so what was the week like for you, Nicola? Oh, I
Sorry?
can see Bruno. I can see Bruno.
Oh, nice. Great.
Boa tarde,
Hey,
Bruno.
Hello,
Hola.
everyone. How you guys doing?
hello,
Good.
bro.
Hey, Bruno, how are you?
Hey,
All right.
Yeah, so I introduced you in. Well, you're a very modest person, you and humble. So normally you don't talk much about yourself, but like Bruno is not only Java champion and is the only person who holds the community award. He's also the person who changed my life in many ways.
Thank you.
So yeah, and his course is like, but not like it's the best money I invested in my life. Besides money, like money I spent on my sunburst, and then it's Bruno. I think it's like close.
Thank
So
you.
it's
Thank
an
you.
amazing course. But
Thank you.
yes, Bruno, what are you going to tell us today?
So I think I was going to have a conversation here, right, about reputation in open source, right? But maybe one thing I could start with is briefly describe the reputation formula, right? Because I think that could be an interesting thing, and then from there, because because I think that open source is probably the best or one of the best ways for us to really improve our careers, right? So we could take a look at how the open source, how open source fits on the reputation formula, right? So how about that?
That sounds good. That sounds really good.
All right. So let me just erase this thing here. So let me briefly talk about the reputation formula then, right? And then we can go from there.
Good.
So, but I want to make this very interactive, right? So I saw there's lots of people here, but now I only see me. So
I'm trying to
Yeah.
find how to do it actually.
okay.
I'm
Leave like this for a minute because I need the big board, right? So guys, feel free to ask questions, interrupt me. Just yes. Let me just start here really briefly with what is the reputation formula, right? And what it means, right? So here, reputation is fundamental for your career, right? So reputation, trust are not exactly the same thing, right? But they're very, very close, right? So reputation is what people believe about you, right? So so when people hear your name or they read an article from you or they see you online or maybe they you start working with them. What people believe about you, right? It's what your reputation is, right? So yeah, I see people here. So hello, thanks Akshay, right? That's good, awesome. So now trust is a more personal thing, right? So you trust a person because you know them more personally, or you trust them on a specific thing, right? So trust is a little bit more specific and requires a little bit more personal contact, right? But reputation, people can have a reputation and you can think about things of people, right? Even if you don't know them, right? So, and for your career, reputation is really important, right? Because, the best jobs in the market are offered to people that have good reputation. The reason for that is upwards of 75% of jobs in the market generally, but I think on the best jobs this is higher, but let's just go with this number. 75% of jobs in the market are filled out by networking, right? Networking and indication, right? So because of that, so those jobs are in what we call the hidden job market. That means those are jobs that don't show up anywhere, don't show up on a job board, don't show up on the internet, don't show up anywhere, right? So they are filled by networking indication before the job is actually promoted, right? 75% of the jobs. That means that those jobs here, those 75% of jobs are offered to people that have good reputation. Okay. So if you don't have a good reputation, or if you have no reputation, right, then you are cut off from 75% of the jobs. That's crazy, right? That's crazy to be out of this, right? So that's why it's so important that you have a reputation, right? Now, one interesting thing about reputation is that you have one, right? Either you want or not, you have one, right? So either I know you and I have some level of trust on you, or I don't know you and I don't trust you, right? So you have a reputation whether you want or not. Either you work on building your reputation or there's going to be a big problem, right? So there's someone with the audio open there, so I'm hearing some. So if you can mute yourself.
Guys, can you all please go on mute?
All right. So what's the reputation formula? So here is what I call the reputation formula, right? So there are things here that you need to do to increase your reputation, things that you need to do that will decrease, things that if you do will decrease your reputation, right? So actually this is too low here, you guys are not gonna be able to see it, right? So let me do it like this. I'm gonna do like this, and I say reputation equals, right? Okay. Yeah, you can't see much, but you see reputation there, right? Okay, so reputation is equal F focus, right? You have
Bru-
a
Bru-
degree of
Bruno, sorry for interrupting. I see your video is like as a mirrored one. So is there anything you did to your camera? Or is it me? And I did something to restream. So you're writing from right to left and stuff like that.
oh, okay. So maybe I can
Oh,
like this?
that's yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Oh,
All right.
now the button's in the right place.
Okay. All right. So now maybe now you need to take this the chat away, right? So
Yeah, I'll hide.
yes. Because then otherwise people are not going to be to see the formula. All right. Okay. All right. So reputation, right? Reputation is equal, right, to focus, right? F or focus. Actually, let me go ahead and put the whole formula here first, and then we talk about each one of them, right? Okay. Lots of things, right? So those are the things that you need to do to increase your reputation, right? And here are the things that if you do, they decrease your reputation, right? And D. All right. So that's a reputational formula right there. So, oops, let me just move this right here. All right. So the reputational formula is, things. So on the top here are things that if you do those things, if you increase those things, it will increase your reputation, right? Okay. And so on the bottom are things that if you do, it will reduce your reputation. So your idea here is to decrease those things to actually increase your reputation. Make sense? So really briefly, description here, or what each one of those things are, right? So, so reputation is focus. You have to have a focus, right? People trust you on some particular thing, right? Now, focus is not about a tool they use. No, like, oh, I'm focused on Java. No, focus is the problem that you solve, right? People are looking for people that solve problems and are very good at solving a particular problem, right? So focus, it's very important, because if you don't have focus, people don't know what you're good at, right? So they just believe about you some general things, and general things don't help, right? So, oh yeah, the guy's a Java developer. I mean, there's 9 million Java developers in the world, right? So if you're a Java developer, that's all you are, right? It's just a Java developer, right? So, but if you are but if you solve performance problems on high volume finance applications, then you're not a Java developer anymore. Then you're part of a much smaller, much more interesting group that is more focused, right? So focus is very important. The second thing is visibility, right? Let's see if I can write here. Focus, right? The second thing is visibility. Okay, visibility. If you're not visible, then how can I believe anything about you? Remember, reputation is what people believe about you. So if you're not visible, I cannot believe anything about you, because I don't know you. I never heard of you. I can't find anything about you, right? So visibility is fundamental for you to have a good reputation, right? And then A is from action. People that have reputations are people that take action. If you just talk, right? If you just tell people what to do, or if you just do that, if you don't take action, then people are not going to trust you. You're not going to have a good reputation, because you're going to be that person that, oh yeah, he just talks, but he never does anything, right? So you have to take action. You have to do things in your job, online, in open source projects, right? So then skill. You have to have some level of skill, because if you don't have skill, you have to take action. But if every time you take action, you don't show any skill, right? That's a problem. Now, from all the things in the reputation formula, from everything here, the one that's harder and takes longer to acquire is skill, right? Because that takes that takes time for you to build, right? But the interesting thing is that the skills that you already have, you can use the skills that you already have to build a reputation, right? Because probably you already have some level of skill, right? You know something, you do something, and then you need to do the other things to show up the skill, right? And yeah, so Nikita's here saying, yes, this aligns with the way great people work. Yes, because the whole idea is, when you say, oh, great people, right? Great people is a reputation, right? When you think about, oh, someone is a great person, that's a reputation right there, right? Now, one important thing, I'm talking here about career reputation, right? And mostly the technical career reputation. Okay? Because there are different careers, we're going to have different things, right? For example, if you are in the entertainment industry, right? Maybe it's not going to help. So if you're in the entertainment industry, for example, maybe this is going to be different, right? So in the technical career, that's so why this is for the technical career? Because really, for you to have an amazing reputation, you have to do the things that other people don't do, right? So if you are in an environment, for example, that everyone has a lot of visibility, right? Then, then you just have to have that just because that's the environment, right? But in the technical career, those are a lot of things that most people don't do, right? Okay. So then giving, right? Giving is very important, right? You have to be a giving person. You have to help others, because reputation is something that other people believe about you. It's not what you do. It's not what you want to do. It's not what you, all right? So reputation is what people believe about you. So if you don't help anyone, if you're selfish, and if you, if you ignore other people, right? Then your reputation is going to be really bad, even though you might be very good in other things, right? And then the R comes from responsibility. Okay, responsibility, right? And it's interesting because if you talk about giving and responsibility, right? Responsibility is about taking responsibility for others, right? Taking responsibility to help others. And actually, you can also say the R is for relationship, right? Because taking responsibility for helping others is building relationship with people, right? So no, the more responsibility you take, the more and deliver, right? And make it happen, the more reputation you're going to have. You're going to have a reputation of someone that actually does things, right? That takes responsibility and does things. And then the C is for consistency. Consistency. Okay. So the C is for so if you got to be consistent. Reputation, what people believe about you. If you keep jumping from one place to the next, if you if you don't if you're one person one day, a completely different person another day, then people don't know what to believe about you. So then your reputation suffers, right? So consistency and consistency is not like, oh yes, I write an article every day. That's part of consistency, right? But consistency is who you are, what focus you have, right? The things that you do. If you keep changing your focus all the time, for example, that's it's very hard to build a reputation around that, right? So all the things here: focus, visibility, action, skill, giving, responsibility, and consistency. Those are the things that are going to elevate, going to make your reputation higher, right? Now, the things here in the bottom are the ones that are going to make your reputation lower, right? So you have to avoid, reduce, or eliminate those things. It's not possible to eliminate them, right? But so the first one here is me, right? You be a person that only talks about yourself, that don't, even if you are a giving person, that you help others, but all the things, all the things that you're doing here, you only mention yourself, right? So I do this, I do that, I was great, I did that project, me. If you're a person like this, right, then people, good people, competent people don't spend all the time talking about themselves, right? So if you do it, your reputation suffers because people think, oh yeah, that this guy is probably not very good. That's why he has to talk about himself all the time, right? Okay. And so because Nikita here said 9, right? Because L will have its own bar, right? So a 9-point shape board and making where I am daily. Well, I think if you do the top ones, right, the 7 here, that's great, Nikita. You don't, the ones here in the bottom, it's a little bit different, right? So I'm going to talk about L, the last one here. So D is being a difficult person, right? Don't be a difficult person, right? A good way to be a difficult person is to keep pointing out mistakes of everyone around you all the time, right? So don't do that, right? So, be a easy person to work with. The more difficult you are to work with, if people can't find you, if you keep, you keep angry very, very easily, or if you push people away, if you do difficult, if you're a difficult person to work with, your reputation is going to suffer, right? And the last one, that's square, right? It's lie. Don't lie, right? I always say the truth, or at least don't lie, right? Don't lie, because when you lie and you're caught lying, because eventually people are going to caught up on your lies, and you're caught lies, that destroys your reputation really quick, right? If you're seen as a person that lies, man, this is really, really hard on your reputation, right? So, and many times you can't recover from that, right? Because it's very hard to trust someone that lies, right? So, so that's the reputation formula right here. Focus, you have to grow focus, visibility, action, skill, giving, responsibility, and consistency. You have to grow those, and you have to reduce being a me person. Stop lying and being a difficult person. You have to reduce those things, right? So, yes, focus, visibility, action, skill, giving, responsibility, consistency, right? That's a good. Okay, cool. Now, I think the discussion that we can have now, right, Nikita, is all right. So, how does the reputation formula matches up with open source, right? Does open source help me on those things here? Does open source help me doing, getting this thing right? So let's think about it, right? So a few things. First of all, when you participate in an open source project, right, you are visible. That's very clear. You're visible, right? Because people see what you do. They see your code, right? So that's very, very good. So open source helps you a lot with visibility. And honest, let me talk about something about the reputation, right? A lot of those things you might have, right? You might have good skills. You might be a giving person, right? You might be a person that takes responsibility, but no one sees it. And maybe all that's missing is a little bit of visibility for you, right? And so maybe you have visibility in your team. I was talking on the reputation workshop that we did yesterday. I was talking with this one of these guys there. He was saying that he has a good reputation inside his company, right? But outside, no one knows him, right? So that's it, right? So he's a giving person. He takes responsibility. He's consistent. He has good skills. He takes action, right? Inside his company, right? So he is a good reputation inside his company, but he's not visible outside of it, right? So open source by itself, if you gain a little bit of visibility, that might be all that you need, right? To get your reputation on the right spot, right? So visibility, open source gives you that, right? The second thing the open source gives you is action, right? You can't participate in an open source project without doing anything, right? The person that I'm going to participate in open source. Yes, I'm here to help. Hey guys, look, I'm here. I want to participate, but doesn't do anything. That person doesn't get anything out of open source, right? Because it doesn't take action, right? So if you do participate in open source, you're taking action. That's awesome, right? Open source is by nature a giving initiative, right? Because you're doing open source so other people can have access, right? So by nature, if you're participating in open source, you're being a giving person, right? And you know, if you participate in open source, you take responsibility for what you're doing. You know, open source, there's no one telling you what to do. There's no one telling you how much time you should spend on this. There's no one forcing you to do anything, right? So if you're doing it, it's because you're taking responsibility to do that, right? So just by participating in open source, right, you get visibility, action, giving responsibility immediately, right? Without much effort. You know, just by doing things, right? You get all those things, right? So that's very good. That's already a big boost on your reputation, especially because of the visibility part. Now, here's the thing, right? You know, you can participate in open source without improving your skills, right? You know, you can just do easy things on open source without improving your skills. So if you go after challenging projects, you go after to grow, you try to understand what the project does, right? You go deep on it, then open source will give you a better skill, right? Because you're going to go deep on it, right? So that's it's possible to use open source to do that. Now, the one thing that open source doesn't give you right away, actually, let me talk about consistency, right? So also, you know, if you go on GitHub and you participate in a project on GitHub, for example, GitHub will show you how many days are being consistent, right? So that helps, right? You know, having a reminder that you have to be consistent, that you have to help every day, that you have to do a little bit every day, that's going to help you. You don't have to be consistent on open source, right? You know, you can help one day, you know, help like 2 months later, help a little bit more. No one's going to force you to be consistent, but you can use open source to be consistent, right? Now, the one thing that's a little bit more complicated, right, is focus. You know, I think that open source can really help you nail your focus, right? Because, you know, when you're participating in open source projects, you can just focus on one project if that's what you want. That's good, right? But you can focus on the problem. You know, for example, I mentioned before that just being a Java developer doesn't help you much, right? And even doesn't help you find a project. Oh, I'm a Java developer. Which project should I work? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands, probably millions of open source Java projects out there. So just being a Java developer doesn't help, even if you choose your project. But if you are a Java developer, focus on high performance, high load financial applications, oh man, by definition, this reduces a lot, right? What kind of projects are you being interested in, right? You know, so you might be interested in projects that are high load projects, high performance projects that are financial focus, right? So then open source can help you with your focus, right? But that's something you're going to have to work on. All right. So, you know, so I think that participate in open source, and, you know, and thanks Nikita, thanks Mikola for running this group here, because I really think that open source is the best, if not one of the best, right? Ways for you to improve your developer career. I really believe that open source will give you everything that you need, and, you know, it's going to give you all the growth things here, right? Now, we'll help you reduce the bottom ones. Definitely the difficult part, right? Open source will help you. If you work on open source, you're going to have to work with other people. So you're probably going to learn how to work together with people that you don't control. So that's going to make you less difficult. You know, the other things here is probably going to have to be a little bit on your own, right? All right. So open source, I think, helps you a lot with the reputation formula. And that's what I had to say here to start the discussion, Nikita.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Is there any noise? Because I can ask my neighbors to be less noisy.
That's all good.
Okay, so I actually wanted to say that I've never actually took notes of this formula. I always accepted it, but when I started taking notes, I started thinking more, and I just realized that although it's not exact math, what is important, especially in the upper part, you need to, if it is zero anywhere, for example, in focus, then all the great stuff you do with open source and other parts, they don't matter at all.
Exactly.
Because like my problem currently is there's no focus. I'm jumping too much.
Yeah, so
no consistency. So
I think everyone has a little bit of each one of those things, but for your point, you're totally right. So the less you have of any of those, it hurts everything. But the one thing that I see that's very easy to be zero, it's visibility. Very easy. It's very easy for you to do lots of things and no one knows that you're doing those things, right? Not even your boss knows how many things you're doing, right? So it's very easy to not be visible, right? And so I think that from all those things here, I know everyone has a little bit of skills. You always take a little bit of action, right? Maybe not being a giving person, maybe that could be zero too, right? But visibility, man, it's very easy for you to just kind of work on your thing. No one knows what you're doing, not even people around you in your company, right? And then you get stuck forever on the same position because you have zero reputation, because no one knows what you do, right? So you're totally right, Nikita. If you get zero on any of those things here, then your reputation kind of get completely destroyed, right? So yeah, I totally agree with you, man. And one thing you mentioned, I think it's important. This is not exact math, right? It's just a general idea for you to think about, because those things are, they combine, right? So if you do a little bit of each one of those, your reputation grows a lot, right? If you just focus in one of them. So let me give you some examples, right? So for example, we're talking about open source here, right? Linus Torvalds is a very difficult person to work with. Like lots of people say that, right? He's even improving now. He just, a few months ago, he posted like saying, yeah, I'm learning, blah, blah. So he's being a less difficult person, but he's a very difficult person to work with, right? So by definition, that would reduce his reputation, right? But he is very skilled, right? He has a lot of visibility. He takes a lot of actions. He's very focused, right? He gives a lot to people. He takes a lot of responsibility. He's very consistent. So that all those things here go so to the roof, and then it reduces the impact of him being a difficult person, right? So so if you look at other people here, right, you might see, for example, that there are some open source developers. They're hugely skilled. They take lots of actions. They have very consistent. So a friend of mine, for example, Eder Ignatovich, right? Eder is all these, right? He takes lots of actions, very skilled. He's very giving. He takes a lot of responsibility. He's very consistent, but he's not very visible. He wants to be a coder. He doesn't want to be like an evangelist, for example, right? So, he participates on events here and there. He writes articles here and there. He's not extremely visible, right? But he's everything else, right? Very strong. So although visibility is a little bit, it's not zero, it's far from zero, right? Because he's, although visibility is very little, everything else is so high, right? That he has an awesome reputation. Make sense? So it's just more like this.
I think we can now show all the faces. So
yeah,
okay,
let's have a conversation now, right?
Yeah. So basically, what I did personally, okay, I don't like myself being that big. So what I just did, I actually wrote my actions, because I didn't just copy.
You can drag people around to change their places if you want to.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You made my day. I don't know how to make like Bruno bigger than, like, I can only make myself very big, and that's
no. Just put that one and exchange places with me.
Something like this. Oh my God, this is magic. Good. And it's not, and people cannot see how sick I am. So yeah, 37 whatever. So I actually discovered two things today, and I want to say one thing which is weird. Bruno reminds me of a friend of mine from Estonia, who is like a very fun guy, and he says stuff which, like, if you on the first look, it might look like it's silly. It's like well, it's either naive or something. And then 2 years from now, this guy got two more flats, and they're like political newspapers. They're telling stuff which he predicted. Economical newspapers are telling stuff he predicted. He got bitcoins, whatever, like few years before. Like, it isn't all exaggeration, but still, he like predicted AI stuff, and coal being drawn in like 2008. He was saying that people, you need to stop moving because you will be replaced with tools. So you need to keep developing. So Bruno is like this formula. It might look like, oh, it's just a formula. What can I do with it? But if you just draw it down and think, where are you in this formula? So, and another thing I did, I just thought that what I will do myself, I will try to schedule, sorry for my voice, I will try to schedule daily calls with myself on this restream, let's say 7 o'clock. So there's consistency, and I will be doing something focused in open source. Maybe this Gradle exercise to start with, but I'll be doing it daily. So I won't bother people with like inviting them, but it will be visible. And I can give an example. I've been to a meetup, and because I was talking to the people, I found, for example, a major contributor to Jenkins. And even people who organized the meetup, they didn't know that he's a major contributor to, because he never speaks about it. And nobody cares. Like, so how can, and his company is selling a tool which is built on the top of Jenkins. So how much money has his company lost? Because he, on conferences and on meetups, this amazing person who is amazing in every other sense, but he was so shy and invisible. So how many contracts, and like literally hundreds of thousands of pounds or millions even, he lost because he didn't speak about like, oh, you know, I'm a major contributor, and but we are not only contributing, we are doing this better thing. So it's being shy is not always a good thing to do.
Well, so one thing I think about being shy, right? Actually, there was another question I was asked yesterday, right? So one thing about being shy, being an introvert, right, is that introverts are very good in listening. So and because you're very, very good at listening, that means that you are better at understanding what people need. So you're better at giving back, right? You're better at taking responsibility because you can listen to other people, right? And so so I think that when you say that, oh, being a shy is not a good thing, well, you have to use your strength, right? And it's very hard to to overcome shyness. It's very hard to overcome it's not necessarily a good thing, right? So I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that it's very hard to overcome shyness, right? It takes a lot of effort, but sometimes instead of trying to overcome it, you can use it to your advantage, right? So for example, you're a shy person, you don't want to expose yourself, you don't want to be talking about it, but you can listen, you can talk to people, you can ask questions. So, hey, Nikita, how are you doing? What are you doing? And then and when you learn what people have problems, you can then create something that you're comfortable with. So for example, write an article. Instead of being visible in a conference, for example, you can write articles, you can write books, right? By talking about the problems that you learn from people because you're listening, right? So I think that many times, Nikita, it's hard for us to get people to make big changes. But if you can make them do small changes that they are capable of, that they believe that, then they can start on the path of doing this, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. Like, if a friend's wife is looking for a job, and I'm like, oh, and she's like, oh, I'm just a primary school teacher and I don't have a job at the moment. And I'm like, look how different it is from Scrum Master. It's not very different. So what you can do, you can go to Twitter and you can write that I'm going to investigate this week what Scrum Master is about, and just write one tweet per day. That's it. Just spend 5 minutes, read about it. And I always prefer consistency. Like, theoretically, I should behave that as well. Consistency over quantity, and maybe even over quality, to be honest, because this can be fixed by consistency. Is very hard to build. And if you look at Eddie Jode or Kunal or other heroes, many are here, like, for example, Dean. And so they're sharing all day around. And for example, Eddie, he even creates a queue of stuff to share. So when he's traveling, like, people still are aware of cool stuff. And I think consistency is also important for those who consume the information from you, because they get they get like accustomed to your ways, and they can maybe ask you questions and make you more relevant for the whole industry. Like with it was actually Mikola's idea, I think. Actually, definitely it was his to introduce you, because I wasn't even thinking. I was like, yeah, I know we are friends, but like really, that it should be very early in Brazil this time. So you might be sleep. You
It's
wasn't
not.
sleep.
It's a good time. A good time.
Yeah. So, but still, I
So-
was like, I was too shy. But-
yeah. So come on. How about everyone else? I mean, everyone is shy here. Come on. You know, Mikkel is a guy that asks so many questions. Come on, everyone else. What's the question that what do you want to discuss here about, right?
I'm not shy, but I took up the whole time last time, so I'll be a bit quiet this time.
No, don't be, man. Just I it's hard to beat me on taking time. So
Usually we go through what we've done for the week and then talk about it between ourselves. So you're more than welcome to join us for that if you can.
sure.
Who's going first?
Sorry, can I?
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, please.
Let's Mikola speak.
I just want to add a couple of words about the subject of discussion. I already told that during last meetup, I believe, or a couple of meetups ago, I have a friend, Sergei Nemchinsky, if everyone knows, anyone knows him. We worked with him at one of projects, and then he's founded a kind of programming school, and he once recorded a video where he told a great example. He is not like expert in some area, but he decided to formalize his knowledge and create article. And what's interesting, one of developers asked a lot of questions, a lot of constructive critics, a lot, and it makes this article much better. But he's wondering why this person is sharing his knowledge only as a response to this maybe somehow stupid notes. What if he will create this article, or maybe even much more articles? So this kind of pity that people who have really a lot of knowledge too shy to share it with the community. So
Right.
he'll kind of encouraging everyone to share what he knows, even if it's not ideal, if he's not an extremely good expert, like top one. Still, you can share something, and you can even by discussion, even by maybe even if someone will correct you, it will give some benefit not only you and to the community.
Yeah, it's interesting when you share, even if you're not the expert, right? When you share, you bring up the questions, right? So no, I have a mentee of mine, for example, that's very shy, and you know he was on a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, and you know he didn't say much in the conversation, right? But the whole conversation, like more than an hour conversation, was based on 2 questions that he asked, right? So he asked the right questions, and then that really spun a good a long conversation, right? And so and then so I think that's, you know, you putting things out there, you asking right questions. You don't have to give all the answers, you know. Sometimes just asking the questions is the best thing you can do.
Yep.
And that makes all the difference.
And also, often people they have this problem. So actually, when I started, when I was asked to speak to people about open source, 2 guys from Northern Africa. So one of them, he was thinking he's not ready to contribute to Java because he only has like 18 years of experience. So he will pick
18.
like 14 or something crazy, like, and he like really knew stuff. He was like bytecode level person. I've never seen somebody like, he's like Anton Arkhipov, if you know the person. Although Anton says that he knows you, but you've never crossed ways yet. At least it was true pre-COVID. So you need to understand 2 things. That first of all, there are not that many people who share on the subject which is important for you or what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and second, people don't need you to be perfect.
Right.
It's easier for people to learn from somebody who is learning. So for junior developers, it's easier to learn from somebody who is mid, or maybe who was a junior developer a year ago, than probably from myself. It won't always be the case, but they probably need to see this person suffering. They need to see that it doesn't come easy. Some things that don't come even with open source. So people, so you should. It's not a computer game. You shouldn't be like. It's not like this Western mentality that I wait this amount of time and then I start acting. It's more like I don't know bazaar mentality that everything everywhere at once. So let's start improving everything, make it visibly, take commands, and then it goes like agile way because you start improving now. Because what if Java doesn't exist those 8 years from now? So and this guy he's never shared. So now he's safe. So because he became aware, he was like, "Oh, I didn't know it's that easy."
So so that's very interesting, Nikita, especially the whole thing about the experience, right? So one thing I want you guys to understand that Uncle Bob says that we doubled the number of developers every 5 years, right? More or less. So so think about it. Every 5 years, half of the developers in the world doesn't know all the things that you guys talking about, right? Because they're just new to the trade, right? And so if you have something, so if someone has 14 years, 15 years of experience, right? So it's like half, and then 1/4 and 1/8. I mean, they have more experience than eight. I mean, than seven. Every 7 developers in the market, they have more experience than that, right? So look, that's such a statement on for you, right? So just by being here, just by doing things, just by working, right? You are just putting yourself into smaller and smaller and smaller, more needed, more required, person in the market, right? Because you have that experience, you have you have the skills, right? Because it takes time, guys. Software development is not it's not a so one of my pet peeves is people thinking, oh yes, should I practice my soft skills, should I practice my hard skills, what's more important? Software development, guys, is not a hard skill. Software development is a soft skill, right? It changes all the time, it improves all the time. So what happens is, the longer you do it, the more situation you expose it to, the better you are. And that experience is not easy to acquire. It takes time, right? And so just by being here, just by trying, just by doing things, you are growing and you're becoming more desirable for the market, right? So recognize that and use that to your advantage.
So I suggest that we all look at the formula and maybe think like, what is your strongest point or what is your weakest? And you can ask questions to Bruno. I'm just trying to think that, okay, I'm fine with visibility. My focus is, my problem is consistency. So I know I need to finish Gradle and then it will be something else. I'm not sure what, but because I'm not doing it daily, for example, today I had excuse of being sick, but I could take paracetamol. I don't recommend it. I'm not a doctor, but I could take paracetamol and I could have started a stream for a minute. And that's it. Or maybe even just turn on the computer, read something, like few lines and tweet about it, and that's it. And but the idea will be like whatever time, but daily. And ideally at the same time. So I think I'll schedule something at 7 in the morning UK time. So when I feel good, it will be 2 hours. When I don't feel that good, it will be, I don't know, 20 seconds. But my consistency is, it's not awful. I just realized that being shy might hurt other people. Because if I say that my consistency is awful, then somebody junior will take a look at my Twitter account and they will see that I tweet a lot, comparing to like normal person who just contribute. And this person will start comparing him or her with myself. And they will say, oh, if Nikita is awful, then I won't even start. And I think it's the case when shyness is like a false shyness. So we shouldn't lie about when being overly shy.
Right. Yeah. So I like your idea, Nikita. So you guys, when you look at this formula here, right? So what is the thing that you think you're not doing, right? What is the thing? What prevents you from doing some of those things here, right? So what is the thing that you're missing most? It's focus, it's visibility, it's action, taking action, it's skill, it's being a giving person, it's responsibility, it's consistency. What is the thing that it's really hurting you, right? And then how you can do, right? So Nikita here says consistency because I don't plan it. All right. So let's think about it, right? Let's think about how we can improve our consistency in a short thing. So first of all, people think that consistency, like, oh, doing the same thing every day, right? And it's not, right? So it's actually finding for you to be very consistent, right? So here's my suggestion, right? Is for you to just think about the 3 most important things you should achieve this week, right? So and don't overdo, right? Don't kind of give you lots of things to do because you're not going to do it, right? And so just imagine what is the most important thing. So if you guys are doing this exercise or every week here, you're telling how your week went, right? So think about the 3 things, right? So every week you say, okay, so next week, the 3 most important things I should do because they really would help my career, right? What's going to be those 3 things here, right? Those are the 3 most important things for me. And so then you make sure, right? Put them, schedule time for them, organize yourself, whatever, right? So make sure do them first thing in the morning if that's you're better productive that time, or put things in your calendar, invite a friend to do with you, so then you commit to it, right? So what are the 3 most important things you should do? That will really improve a lot of your consistency, because if you're looking at the 3 most important things and you're working to try to do those things every week, that's going to be amazing. And then think about it, right? I'm not taking all your week, right? It's just like 3 things, right? The 3 things that for you right now, because that helps in lots of things. First of all, it helps you for focus, right? Because if you have to think about what are the 3 most important things I got to do next week, I have to choose what they are, right? And then that's great, right? And then so you focus, right? Because now you know what the most important things are. And maybe in the first week you're not going to be very, very good at it. You're gonna miss it out. You're gonna choose 3 things that are not very important, for example, right? Then second things that is just 3 things, right? So you can say, okay, man, I just gotta. So how about I just spend Monday doing those 3 things, right? And then the rest of the week I'm gonna just do it, whatever it takes, right? Some point here says I don't plan anything, right? And I'm super consistent. Yeah. So especially if you're Dean, especially if you're planning things that that other people plan things for you, right? That makes you more consistent. Why that makes you more consistent? Because you're taking responsibility with someone else. It's very hard to do things for us, right? But we do things for others, right? For example, your job. I can guarantee that your job, you're very consistent. You show up on the time, you leave on the time, you do things every day. You're very consistent. Why? Because you agree that your job is extremely important, right? And so you do things for others. Now think about it, right? If you want to be consistent, think about more important things. So for example, man, I need to improve my career. Why? It's not because I want to, right? It's because my family deserves a better life, right? Because I want to have vacation with my kids, because I want to have a better house for them, right? Because I want to have a safer car. I don't know, right? Think about larger than you. Because when you think about larger than you, you take the responsibility. And then you say, look, if I just do what my boss tells me to do, I'm never going to have this amazing life that I want for my family. So I got to do more than that. And then I start thinking about taking responsibility for the things that I think are important, right? Because here's the problem, Dean, with just doing what other people tell you to do, is because you don't have autonomy, right? And autonomy is extremely important, right? Because for you to grow beyond senior, you have to be autonomous. For you to do open source, you have to be autonomous. You can't be waiting for people to tell you what to do, because then you don't grow anymore, right? So you have to be autonomous. And autonomy is something that no one gives to you, right? Because if you have to ask for it, you don't have, and you don't deserve to have it, right? So autonomy is something that either you have it and you conquer it, right? Or no one gives it to you. So if you just do what other people tell you, you get stuck, right? You get put into this box, and then there's a moment you can't grow anymore, right? So yeah, so man, I agree with you, right? I know it's hard, I know that when I look, I have to be very autonomous, right? Because I don't have a boss, right? For many, many, many years, right? Even when I was working for Sun, I didn't have a boss, right? So I have to be very autonomous, right? I have to do the things that are important. But at the same time, for me, it's very difficult to do things alone, right? So how do I do things that I'm very autonomous and I don't do things? Well, so I invite my friend, right? I'm here with you guys. We're discussing this thing here because I work better with people than I do with myself, right? And when I learned that, well, I'm working with people all the time. That's why I have a mentoring, because by helping my mentees, I do things, I take action. I never help my mentees with things that I don't believe in or with things that I haven't done, right? So no, if someone wants to do something that I have never done, I say, well, I can help you with that, but you have to do it, right? Because I have never done that. But if I want to tell you, hey, go do that. For example, I'm going to tell you, go do the three big stones for the week, right? I'm telling you this because that's what I do. Because I practice, I try it, I experiment with other things. I know this works, right? And so because I'm doing with you, I learn what works, and then I can teach others, right? So that's, so you find your weakness and work around them. You figure out things, right? So if you don't plan, well, maybe you don't have to plan. Invite your friends to do things with you for the whole week. So it's not planning, it's just invite my friends, right? And then you go and you do a lot of things for the whole week because you're doing it for other people, right? If you're like me, for example, right? So find your weakness, find the reason why you don't do that, and then go figure out a way to solve that, right? Make sense?
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
I have yeah.
Sure, go for
I
it.
have a small question. Like while doing all this, before that I was also introvert. So, but yeah, I started like sharing my things, sharing my knowledge on the Twitter and other platforms also. So it's a good thing. I got many things. I got like recognized and I shared my all the other thing. But I have questions like how to maintain all this, like sometimes focus, visibility, actions, because sometimes we just disbalance. Sometimes we much focus on activity or sometimes on visibility. So how to make balance in all these?
So that's not okay. So that's a very, very good question. So that's not a balance, right? Unfortunately, those things here, people like to, oh, how do I do work-life balance, right? So there's no work-life balance, guys, right? It's just life. That's your life, right? So Akshay. So how do I say your name? Akshay? Is that good enough?
Yeah, Akshay.
Akshay. Okay, Akshay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so Akshay, I totally understand, right? When you see this, oh man, it's so complex, so many things I got to do, but actually, it's not. Think about it. Instead of you thinking of all those different things, just imagine this is one thing, right? I want to have focus because I'm going to focus on, being an amazing performance guy working for large finance projects, right? Okay, so I'm going to take action. I'm going to improve my skills by learning things in that direction or experiment with that. I'm going to take action by doing that, right? And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to help people on this area, right? So I'm going to, open source projects on the finance industry. I'm going to help them, right? So I'm going to give, that's my focus. That's what I want, because I'm helping an open source project. I'm improving my knowledge. I'm improving my skill on that thing, right? And I'm going to take responsibility. So I'm going to take responsibility on a little piece of code from an open source project, for example, right? And so, and I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to do a little bit every day, right? I'm going to do, I'm going to work on 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, every day. Oh, Bruno, but I thought I need 4 hours a day. No, you don't need 4 hours a day, right? You need 15 minutes, right? 5 minutes. If you can't do 15, just do 5, right? I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day, and she told me that she spends every day, she spends 4 hours playing games, right? That's a problem, right? Because you don't get anything out of that, right? So she sees the problem. It's not. I'm not saying that's a problem. She says that's a problem, right? So, well, if someone that works, is a good professional, works in one of the large companies, right? Has lots of things to do, has a son, has a family. If someone like this can spend 4 hours gaming every day, man, I guarantee that you can find 15 minutes to do something that's important for you, right? You know,
Right.
so that's consistency. Consistency is not like 4 hours a day. It's like it's 15 minutes, right? Can you do that 15 minutes every day? Yeah. So then you see that everything you're just doing one thing. You're not doing 15 different things. You're just doing one thing because that's where you focus on, right? So when you see all this, oh man, how do I find time to do all those things? No, it's just find time to do one thing, right? And this one thing is that you're focused, the thing that you want to do. And then once you do that, actually maybe visibility might be the one that's extra, right? Because then you have to share a little bit. But come on, if you did something today, can't you share it? Is it that hard to share something that you did today, right? No, you don't have to imagine something to do so you can share. No, it's just that you're doing that work every day, right? And then you can just share what you did. Make sense? A good way to share, guys, is document what you're doing. That's what you guys are doing here. You meet every week and you talk about what you did this week, right? It's a lot easier to talk about what you did this week than it is for you to imagine a content, imagine something, right? Now, you can say, but Bruno, if I just share what I did, right? Maybe I didn't do anything interesting. Well, and if you share what you did, that's a me thing, right? So instead of sharing what you did, how about you share your problem? I had this problem this week. I had a consistency problem this week. I really failed on my consistency because I had too many things to do, and my kid got sick, and I got COVID. Very hard to be consistent in that situation. So how do I do that? Then you can imagine. Okay, so how can I do that? I don't know. I don't know how to solve that. So maybe I'm gonna give Nicola a call and say, hey, Nicola, you're much worse than I am, right? Because you're in Ukraine, you're in the middle of the war, right? How can you be consistent in the middle of a war, right? That's much worse than my kid being sick for a couple of days, right? So then you talk to someone and you learn a little bit from him how you do that, and then you try to apply next week, right? And then you talk about all the experience, right? Okay, so I had this problem, and here the 5 things I'm thinking about fixing next week. And you see, so it's not Ashrey, it's not a lot of things, right? It's just trying to get this whole thing as one thing. So instead of making a balance, work-life balance, or balance on all those things, right? Just think what's the most important thing for you and do that, right? And then put all. There's an expression from Scott McNealy. He used to be the CEO of Sun Microsystems, right? So he was the guy. He was the guy that convinced a person not to leave the company, and this person went on to build Java, right? So he had to. So Scott McNealy had this expression that he used it a lot, and he would say, "All the woods behind the same arrow," right? So you put all your efforts on the same direction, right? Because if you put all your woods behind the same arrow, this thing's gonna go really fast. Make sense? Right? So that's the thing, right? So it's not to do many things, it's to do one thing and put all your effort in that direction.
Right. Thank you so much. We have to focus one thing, one time. Right.
Yes. Now, when I say that, oh man, every time I say focus, I that's getting in my mind. When I say that, someone says, yes, I'm going to focus on Java, right? Java, guys, is a tool. It's a tool, right? So, very rarely you focus on tools. I'm going to focus on software development. Software development is a tool, is a technique. We don't focus on tools and technique. We focus on problems, right? Imagine, for example, my house here is full of wood, right? So imagine my ceiling, right? So it's a wooden ceiling. And then someone comes to me and says, okay, just give me a second here. So someone comes to me and say, Bruno, I'm going to fix your roof, right? A carpenter comes to me and say, I'm going to fix your roof because I'm a specialist in hammers. Do you hire a specialist in hammers to fix your roof? No,
No.
right? No, because that's not what you need, right? You need a specialist in roofs, right? To fix your roof, right? So and funny enough, right? I have a wooden roof and I had a wooden cabinet right here, right? If the guy that fixed my roof comes and say, "Oh, I see your cabinet's a little messed up. I can fix that too." I don't want the carpenter to fix my roof to fix my cabinet, right? Because although they use the same tools, it's a different problem. Make sense? Right? And so, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit here just to make a point, but that's the same thing, right? So, and Nikita says here, I don't need to build hammers, right? Yes, I'm sure there is a specialist in hammers, right? But they work for this particular one here is from Tramontina, is a Brazilian company, right? So they work for Tramontina, right? So they build hammers, not fix roofs, right? They specialists in hammers. So if you want to be a specialist in Java, go do the Java VM, right? You can do that. You can be the guy that writes the Java VM. That's awesome, right? But normally we're not specialists in tools. We're focused on problems. We're focused on our career. We're focused on our, on the big things. So when you imagine, man, what needs to happen for my life to be amazing a year from now, right? So imagine the big thing, right? The most important thing, and you're going to find out what is most important for you. And that might be your family. That might be, time with your kids. That might be, you earning, double your salary. I mean, there's all kinds of important things that you should be focused on. So when we say put all the wood behind the same arrow, it's not on Java, right? It's like, okay, I want to I want to buy an awesome house for my family, right? So I need double my salary. That's my focus. Make sense? And then I got to do all those things. I may need to learn Java. I may need to be more responsive. I need to be more visible. I need to do all those things because I have a larger goal. Make sense?
Right.
Can I ask a couple questions? Maybe it's a wider topic. Maybe we can at least really briefly discuss them. Question is how to maybe discuss limiting beliefs which prevent people from starting contributing to open source or to continue contributing to open source. And another very important topic is how to find an appropriate project for you which will allow to grow your skill and really be effective. And another fourth question is how to find that or build a communication with project maintainer, with teams, so you could not just do like independence is good, but it's important to be a team worker, as I understand, especially in open source. So how to find a good project, for how to find a leader which could be, it's not universal, but at least for you, which will be comfortable for you to work with, which will be, and you will be comfortable for team. So these are I think this maybe many people who want to start or want to continue grow as open source developers probably are asking, and maybe it will be nice to maybe we will be great. It's really thank you for sharing your reputation formula. Maybe we can try to answer these questions from Prisma, from coming from this formula, maybe.
So two questions, right? How do I get participate in open source, and how do I find a good project that have a good leadership, right? So our open team. Okay. So first of all, I think that's the best way for you to participate in open source. It starts very small. Open source is all about trust, right? I said that reputation is similar to trust, right? But open source is all about trust. And imagine that, for example, that you invite a friend to your house, right? So the friend comes to your house for the first time, and he looks around and say, "Oh, your sofa is in the wrong place here. Let me move your sofa around." Right? And then, "Oh, I don't like the color of your chairs, right? So I'm gonna pay here someone to redo the stuffing of your chairs because I don't like the colors. Oh, your guest bedroom is too small, right? I'm gonna exchange the bathroom with the master bedroom because do you want that? Do you like this friend to be with you in your house, right? You're going to kick your friend out and say, "Come on, man, I invite you to be here to my house, not to change my house," right? So a lot of people participate in open source like this. You know, they come to their project. It's not their house. They don't even know the people. They don't even know the problem yet. They're just participating, right? They're just starting. And they want to change things. You know, that's not your job to change anything in a project that's not yours, right? So, you know, as a good friend, you would come to the house and say, hey guys, you know, thanks for having me here. I'd love to help. Is there any small thing I can do to help? Oh yeah, you know, come on, you maybe just bring the plates and put on the table. That would be good. Okay, good. I can do that, right? I can do the things that you want me to do. That's how you get started, right? You start small. You know, do the smallest thing possible, right? Do the thing that will build trust. Do the thing that people can accept, right? You know, if you see around, you're gonna see every open source project has this huge pull request that no one asked for, and they stay there forever. No one ever merged that. Why? Right? Because I don't know who you are. I don't trust you yet, and you're giving this all this piece of code. You're not helping me. You're giving me more work, right? Because now I have to go look at your code, see what it does, understand it, see if it's good quality, merge it. Now you're giving me work. You know, I don't need more work. It's my project, right? I'm doing the work. I know the work I have to do. I don't want you that I don't know, I don't trust, to give me more work, right? So instead of doing that, join an open source project and do the things that no one wants to do, right? Remember, for you to be better than 99% of people, it doesn't help if you do what 99% of people do and try to do better. What you have to do is that you have to do things that they don't do, right? The things that the 1% of people do, right? So go do the things that no one is doing, you know, and small things, right? Go look at the documentation, see small fixes that you can do, right? Go do testing and fix the task, right? Go do small things. Things are so small. Here's a trick. Things are so small that's easier for me to accept it than for me to reject, right? So the quintessential example, right? You know, you're reading the documentation, there's a misspelled word, right? So you fix that. But Bruno, that's not what I want to do, man. I want to do code. I want to be seen as a great developer. I want to show my experience. I'm not going to fix a word. Well, that's exactly. So you got to do what no one does, right? You go and do that thing, right? You fix that misspelled word. Why? Because the committer of the project, he's going to see that and he's going to see, oh, that's a misspelled word. Accept, right? It's harder for him to tell you, oh, sorry, man, we're not going to accept your contribution because it's just a misspelled. It's hard for him to tell you something than to accept it, right? And as Dean says here, it still shows up in your profile, right? Yes, right? But more than that, now I'm the owner of the project and I see you doing some interesting thing and say, Dean is trying to help out. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm going to approve him. And then tomorrow, Dean does another fix, very simple fix, and say, yeah, fix it, approve it. And then I'm like, now I'm looking at Dean. Hey, Dean is really, every day he's helped me out. That's good. I wonder what he's going to do next, right? And so then Dean fixes small things in a obscure test somewhere that no one cares about. Yeah, Dean, that's great, man. Approve it. Man, maybe you should do some coding next, right? And maybe I will tell you, hey, Dean, you know what? There's this test here that I need some cleanup on it. Can you take a look at it? And now you are doing something because the guy told you to do. And now he's expecting something out of you. Now you're doing some more important things, right? And so, yeah, so Dean's saying that's how I end up in AdiHub and Link4You. Yeah, exactly, right? So you start small and you grow, right? And so you build confidence, you build trust with the people. Eventually, what's going to happen? Someone's going to say, hey, Dean, you've been working with us for a while now, and everything that you do is great, man. I'm gonna prove you as a committer. And then now you become part of the project, right? And so now the project is yours. So now you can do the things that you want to do. But then you say, Bruno, I don't want all those things, man. I just want to do the things I want to do. Well, okay, so fork the project, go do it, go do it yourself, and never be part of anything, right? That's because if you don't start small, you're never gonna grow big, right? So because if you just start big, no one ever gonna approve anything that you do, and then you're never gonna be part of the project, and then you're never gonna get to do anything, right? So so that's my suggestion, Mikola, on participating, on getting started with open source, right? Now, finding a project that you like, right? That you like the leadership. So here's an interesting thing on open source, right? Open source, it's not your boss, right? The leader of the project is not your boss, right? So he can't tell you what to do. That's very interesting because it makes you that you have to be very autonomous, right? So on an open source project, there's no hierarchical things that there's a hierarchy, but there's no one that can force you to do anything, right? Because they're not your boss. They don't control your salary, right? So they can't fire you, right? They cannot accept you in the project if you're not doing things. That's a different thing, but they can't fire you, right? So they don't have control. So you got to be inspired to really help out, right? So, and that sometimes you're going to have to experiment, right? So, find out 3, 4, 5 projects that you like that are aligned with your focus. Join the project, join the main list. See how people talk. See how people interact, right? See their values, right? See if you would be inspired to help to work with them or not. And then choose the ones that are more aligned with you, right? Because if you, because it's very easy to have an open source that you love. Oh man, this is such an amazing project. I really love that. But the moment you start participating, the moment you start listening, then you don't like what people say, right? You don't like the way they work, right? And then you're not interested, right? A good example of that is Otavio Santana, right? Otavio, when I met Otavio, he was a university student, and today, it's like he's this such awesome guy, worldwide Java developer, right? So, but Otavio first, he tried to work on Linux, right? So what Otavio did, he joined in the Linux main list or something like this. I'm not sure exactly what list it is. I'm telling like a secondhand story here. And he started asking newbie questions, right? And they told him, say, come on, man, that's not the place, man. Here's the Linux kernel list, right? So you can't ask newbie questions here. Go ask somewhere else. Not a good place for him to be because, he was a newbie, right? He wanted to ask a question, right? So then he went to the Java mailing list, right? And to the JVM mailing list, he started asking newbie questions and they answered him. They guided him. They pointed him to the right places, right? And so he became a Java developer working on the JVM, right? Because he found, I'm not saying either one is right or wrong, right? I do totally understand that if you ask newbie questions to Linux kernel, that's a problem. I'm not faulting them. I'm just saying that for Otavio's style, for what Otavio was looking for, he found another place where he was well received, that he matched what he needed, right? And that's the same thing you should do. You might have lots of interesting projects you want to work on, and in some of them, they will connect with you more, and some you not connect with them, right? Some projects are going to be really fast and you don't have the time. Some projects are going to be really slow and you are, you can get nervous, right? Another example for Otavio. There was a Otavio, I helped with Otavio. Otavio today is one of the leaders in the JCP. He's like there was a slides yesterday or 2 days ago where they were showing him as the top contributor to the Jakarta EE specifications, right? So Otavio is very into specifications today, right? He's like awesome. But I introduced him to specifications a few years ago, and the first specification I got him to participate, right? Otavio messaged me and said, Bruno, this whole thing is dead, man. No one does anything. There's not a single mess in the main list. I'm off of here, man. That's not working. I'm like, wait, Otavio, that specification was approved yesterday, right? So the work has not even started yet, man. So don't be so So don't require that fast pace, because that's not going to happen, right? So he had to learn how to deal with this lower pace of specification discussions, right? And so that's the same thing, right? When you have to see a place that you fit, right? That's going to help you in the things that you want to do. Make sense?
Thanks a lot for great answers. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Awesome.
I feel we'll have more questions later.
Right. So guys, I think I have time for one more question here, because it's Sunday, lunch with the family, right? So come on, maybe a couple more questions, and I'll need to leave.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, hey Bruno, my name is Imran. I want to ask, like, what are the things and what are the best practices we can do to increase our visibility in the reputation formula?
Okay, so visibility. So how do I say mods?
No, you can call me Imran. Yes.
Imran. Okay, Imran. Lot
Yes.
easier. Okay, Imran. Awesome. Okay, Imran. Very good question, right? So I think that for you to grow, you have to do what 99% of people don't do, right? So if you want to be one of the 1%, you got to do what 99% of people don't do, right? And if you want to know what 99% of people don't do, is visibility, right? Most people don't do it, right? Just I don't know for what reason, but a few days ago I was browsing the list of people that follow me on Twitter, right? And you see, if you see everyone, you can see people that follow them, right? It's like 2 people, 10 people, 12 people, right? It's like, most people don't do anything to be visible, right? You go to the Twitter profile, they have nothing. And you go to the LinkedIn profile, they have nothing, right? And so basically, you gotta, if you do a little bit, that's the crazy thing about visibility. If you do a little bit, that's more than most people do anyway, right? So so the more you do, the better you get. So anything that you do that is public will increase your visibility. So you got to choose, right? So you can you can do things like this, right? That you guys are being you guys are being public here, right? You're there public on YouTube, right? You're streaming this thing up, and you're here, you're putting your face out there, right? So that's great, right? So then what you need to do is just that, right? So help others, be visible by helping others. So visibility doesn't go alone, right? So you got to be visible by helping others, right? So and visibility is all about building a relationship, right? So when you do a YouTube video, for example, or a YouTube channel, or you do LinkedIn or Twitter or anything like that, what you're doing is that you're building a relationship between you and your audience, right? And so for you to build a relationship between your audience, you have to think about them, right? So visibility is not about you, it's about them. What do they need? What is the thing that they're looking for? What problems that they're having to solve? But when you think, well, if visibility is about them, it's not about me, who are them? That's the first question. Who are them? Who am I willing to help? Who am I willing to do the next step, right? Oh, I want to help Java developers. Why? Because I'm a Java developer, so I can help other Java developers, right? To do what? Well, I'm a senior Java developer, so maybe I can help non-senior Java developers to become senior Java developers. Okay, that's great. Because now you're going to attract to you non-senior Java developers that want to be seniors, right? And then you can think about, but Bruno, if I do that, if I only teach people that are less than who I am, then I'm never going to learn anything. Well, yes, you will, right? Because you go deeper on things to teach others. But here's the trick. If you help, let's say, if you help junior developers become senior developers, right? That means that you are a senior developer, right? And so who are you going to associate with to help the junior developers? You're going to associate with other senior developers, right? So other senior developers can come with you to help junior developers. So not only you're visible for everyone that's a junior developer, you're visible for everyone that needs a senior developer. You're visible for other senior developers that you're in the same level of them and they want to help you help them. Make sense? So visibility is not about you, it's about them. So you have to decide who them is, right? Because once you know who they are, then you know what problems they have and you know how you can help them. And then you can go to other people like you, right? Or even above you to help. Okay, hey man, no, so you can come. Let me give you an example, right? There's a friend of mine here for my mentorship program, and he wanted to help CTOs, right? That was his dream. He wanted to be a CTO, and so he wants to help CTOs, right? So first thing he did, right? He invited his boss to have a conversation because his boss was CTO, right? Hey, you know what? I want to help other people to, to grow and become directors, become CTOs like you. Can we have a conversation? Right? And then his boss said, man, you want to be a CTO? That's awesome, man. Because I have other things that I want to do. I would love to have a co-CTO with me here. So in a span of like 6 months, this guy became a CTO of his company, right? So that's how you do it. So you go help people to do something, and then you become visible for those people and for everyone that has already achieved that. Make sense?
Yes, yes.
Very good answer. Thank you, Bruno.
And
Thank you, Bruno.
and then you can use anything you can, anything you want, right? You can do, you can use, Twitter, you can use blogging or video or anything you do, right? Because the reality is the thing that you are more comfortable with will be easier for you to do, right? Oh, Bruno, I don't like to be in a video. That's okay. Don't be in a video. Write an article, right? Well, I don't like to be in a video and I don't like to write. Okay, so build a Twitter space and go talk, right? Bruno, I'm too slow. I don't know. I don't know enough. Okay, so go do interviews, right? Get someone that knows more than you and you ask questions, right? Because then you learn and then you do interviews, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do. Even if you don't think that you are qualified, there's other things you can do that would be easy for you to do. Make sense?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Bruno.
No problem. Okay, last question, guys.
I have a question actually. I have a question about geography because the person I'm asking for, he's too shy. But what I found, although open source it's great, but if you're located not in EMEA zone, and even worse, not even in South America, then you might find that it's harder to get a job. So is there anything to do, like if you live in a country where IT is not so common and it's not so common for European companies to hire people from this country, especially remotely, is there anything you should concentrate on in your formula of contributing to open source? So is there some twist or magic? I don't know.
Okay, so here's the magic of visibility, right? I agree that there's places that don't that there are not a lot of options, for example. But here's the magic of visibility, right? So should I do? I'm just going to try to explain the drawing. So the reality is, I told you guys that 75% of jobs, right, are in the hiding job market, right? So every 4 jobs, right, 3 of them are invisible, right? You can't find them. So when you say, oh, there's not a lot of jobs for me in my region, yeah, there's not a lot of jobs because you can't find them, right? Because 3 out of 4 jobs are invisible. Okay, so how do I and look, when you have let's say you have a skill, right? You're a Java developer. Let's just kind of use an easy skill here. You're a Java developer, and then a little bit better. So you're a Java developer focused on performance, right? So you only see 1/4 of the jobs, right? and maybe the job that you would be the best person to, right? There's a job that's Java and performance. That job is not visible. First of all, you can't see the 20 all the jobs that are available, right? You don't see all of them, right? You just see a small part of them, and you only see a small part of a small part. So the jobs that you can reach are tiny, right? It's a very small quantity, right? So, but the people that have the jobs that are invisible, if they can see you, they know they need you, right? So again, visibility, right? So here's my is my 5-step process for you to get amazing jobs, right? So if you share what you know, I'm not saying other things, you share what you know or you already know. Other people know what you know, right? And they trust you on what you know. And so when they need what you know, they'll call you and not someone else. Make sense? So when you share what you know, other people know what you know, and they trust you in what you know. And when they need what you know, they call you and not someone else. That's the way for you to be available for the jobs that you can't see, right? So, there's no European company that hires someone in Latin America, in Brazil. Well, there are some, right? They're just not visible, right? There are companies that hire people everywhere. They're companies, they're not based on any specific physical place. There are companies that need people from everywhere. There are companies that need, let me give an interesting example, right? My good friend, Edson Yanaga. So Edson Yanaga, maybe you know him, right? So it's from Quarkus fame, and he used to be an evangelist at Red Hat, right? So he's not at Google. He's running Google Wallets. So Edson, he is a Brazilian descent of Japanese, right? So he loves Japan. He speaks Japanese, he's in all that. And he lives in the US, right? So when Google called him to offer him a job on Google Wallets, they said, we need someone, because the 3 countries that we're going to focus on are Brazil, Japan, and the US. Right? So Edson said, Bruno, this job was made for me. Yeah, exactly. Right? So Google knows the job they have. They know the problem they have. Right? And they need someone that can solve that problem they have. But because Edson is visible, Google can go after, I need this particular person here, because that's the right person for what we need to do. And that's all jobs, guys. The guy that knows what they need is the owner of the job, right? So if he can know about you, right? Another good example is Alan. Alan's a guy from, he was, I don't remember exactly which country from Africa he is, but he's from Africa, and he was living in France, right? So he wanted to get a good paying job on his country, because his family could not move to France. So he wanted to go back to work on his country, right? And so he wrote one post on LinkedIn, one article on LinkedIn. It's not a lot, guys. One article on LinkedIn, right? So there's one person that comments on his one article, right? And that one person hired him to go work back on his country. So, when the person that needs you finds you, they'll hire you because they need you, right? But if they can't see you, if it's not visible, if that's then they can't hire you, right? That's why you have to choose a focus. That's why you have to talk about your focus. That's why you have to attract to you people that need you, because the more people that need you, that see what you're doing, the more if they need you, they're going to call you to do interesting things, right? And so I'm just going to give an example here, Nikita. That's exactly what you mentioned here. So a guy that joined my program a few years ago was Pedro. And Pedro lived in a small town in a poor state in Brazil, right? He told me, he said, Bruno, it was really interesting conversation, because he told me, he said, Bruno, look, I'm a developer, right? But there's no development jobs in my city, right? There's nothing I can do here. So, and Pedro said, look, Bruno, man, I don't know how I'm going to join your program, right? But I'm going to sell my motorcycle to join the program, right? And you know, I can just walk to work, right? Because the work that he had a accessory store for computers. So he would sell, you know, mouse and mouse pads, and, you know, in a tiny little store. He was a developer doing this because there's no development jobs, right? Okay, fast forward, you know, just a few months later, you know, Pedro today, he's a Java developer in Estonia, right? He moved with his family there. He's very happy because people in Estonia found him in a small town in the middle of Brazil, right? Because, you know, because he is, yeah, so you're from Estonia, Nikita. That's great, right? So, no, so you should meet Pedro. So, you know, so Pedro is there, right? And he became the, you know, the poster face, right? Of, you know, so there's videos of Pedro speaking Portuguese, right? Inviting Brazilians to move to Estonia, because his story was so amazing and he was so visible, and he was, you know, he was so good in talking to people and all that, you know, they start using him to promote more people to come to Estonia, right? So yeah, man, just go be visible. And even if you're in a small town somewhere, lost somewhere, you know, somewhere else, you know, actually another interesting example is Bazlur Haman, right? Bazlur, and I met Bazlur, he was in Bangladesh, right? Bazlur in Bangladesh. And guys, Bangladesh, I'm not sure if you have anything to do with Bangladesh, but Bangladesh is such a complicated country. Bazlur could not even pay me, right? Because Bangladesh is not part of the international banking system, right? So Bazlur today is a Java champion, right? And, you know, he lives in Canada. He was hired to move to Canada. He's a Java champion because he starts working with, you know, he starts being visible, right? He starts showing what he does. Make sense? So visibility, guys, it's not the only thing, right? But it takes you a long way, especially because 75% of the jobs are invisible.
And I assume it's also actually a few thoughts here. So there was a question about remote jobs. I assume it applies to remote jobs as well.
Yes, it applies to remote jobs, right? So and applies to open source. So a good example I like to talk about a lot is Andres Galante. So Andres is you know, he thought it was impossible for him to participate in open source, right? He says this all the time. It was impossible. I can never participate in open source. And so, you know, so we're working on Focus, and he found an interesting project he wanted to work on, and you know, he made a plan that, you know, I'm sure you guys have heard of Bootstrap, right? So Andres made a plan that in a year he wanted to be one of the top 100 contributors of Bootstrap, right? He thought that if he did that, it would be amazing for his career. So applying these techniques I'm telling you guys about, right? So in 30 days, Andres became number 48 on Bootstrap, right? And in 3 months, he became one of the 9 committers of Bootstrap. And so, you know, so Andres, and he talks about this, you know, he has talks about how he did that, all of that. So Andres became a committer of Bootstrap, and that completely changed his career, right? So he went on to become a responsible for the whole development team of a company, of an international company that had no offices. And Andres is in Argentina. He never left Argentina. And today, Andres is a executive director on Hero, right? So I think it's a Bitcoin or blockchain company, and he receives director level salaries in San Francisco, living in Argentina, right? And so Andres is responsible for the whole development team of Hero today. And here's what Andres thought it was impossible, right? Andres thought it was impossible for him to be participating in open source because Andres is not even a developer, right? Andres is a designer. So today he leads development teams because he knows how development teams work, because he participated in open source, right? He participated in one of the most important open source projects in the world. And so big companies that really want that kind of level of understanding hire him to lead their teams, because they want their teams to be as productive as an open source project, right? So and he's totally remote, and do this kind of things, right? Okay, so I think that remote jobs, man, are totally possible, and I think that this is awesome, right?
Now we have another question. Thank you, Bilal coined it. I was thinking about the same. How do you choose the focus of your contributions? Because even if I think of like the stuff people need, it will be Golang, it will be Bootstrap, it will be artificial intelligence. There's the whole direction of this now emerging stuff. There'll be platform engineering, there'll be something. So how do I tell that, mate, just do this project, focus on this one, and like in a few years time, because I want to feel safe, that because people here in the stream, they're friends, and most of my people and most of my friends, well, everybody's a friend. I don't want to tell them that, oh, contribute to this Hello World project for a year and this person will not get a job.
Mm-hmm.
So how to choose something which will give you a job with a high degree of probability?
Well, the high degree of probability, right, involves you doing lots of things, right? There's, the more you do things. So, for example, one discussion we had yesterday was someone asking me, how do I break the noise, right? How do I overcome the noise of the internet, right? And the only way to overcome the noise is kind of, is doing lots of things. It's kind of being consistent and posting things every day. And, you're doing the thing that 99% of people don't do. If you do that, then you break the noise of the internet. Actually, there's I'm not sure if you see that there's a channel that posts just one video a day, right? It's like a 3-minute video that says your dose of internet, right? Daily dose of internet. I mean, this guy has like millions of subscribers, right? And now he does like post one 3-minute video every day, right? So the thing about doing things every day, right, makes a huge difference, right? And so so this whole thing, and Rafael Delnado is a Java champion today. He started by doing one Java challenge a day, right? So Elder Moraes is also Java champion today. He started by doing one interview a day, right? So this whole thing about doing things daily, right, makes a huge difference. And any project that you participate, if you participate in that project daily, right, that makes a huge difference, right? So and you don't need a lot of, there's so few people doing things, guys, that you don't need a lot, right, to be the most something on something, right? And by the way, to be the most on something, people say, oh, I want to be the top, I want to climb the Everest, right? Because the largest mountain in the world. So I want to be the top one in, that's lots of people go over the Everest, but in your career, you can be the top on your own mountain, right? If you define your mountain, you can be the top of your mountain, right? So you don't even need to compete with anyone if you don't want to, right? So when you're talking about choosing a project, right? First things first, I think that for it to be consistent, it has to be something that matters to you, right? That you like, that you find interesting, that you find challenging, that's important for you. So if you keep looking at, oh, let me look for what project I should look for to be hired, then that's a little harder because you don't know what people are going to hire you for, right? But if you look at something that, oh man, if I work on this project here, it's going to be amazing. I had a friend of mine that one day he told me, Bruno, my dream is to work for Disney. And I said, seriously? Is that your dream? Yeah, that's a dream, man. I want to work for Disney. I said, is that like a real dream? Or that's a childhood dream? You've been watching Mickey Mouse and things since you're a kid, and so you want to work for Disney because of that, right? And he said, no, I think it's a real dream, man. And I said, okay, cool. Let's start working for Disney today, right? So I went on and opened up the Disney open source page, right? And man, Disney has amazing open source project. I said, I want to work for Disney too, right? Every single open source project they have, that's like, whoa, right? You want to work for Disney? Just go there, man. Start working right now. You can do it today. You don't need them to hire you. You don't need them to do anything. It's open source project. You can do like Disneyland open source is just Disneyland for developers, right? Yes. Okay, cool. But then if you work for Disney project, what's going to happen, right? There's a big chance that Disney's going to hire you, right? So that's great. But if you go there, like happened with my friend, he went there and said, you know what? I'm looking at it. Now that I know it's possible, I'm looking at those projects. None of this thing interests me, right? So maybe I don't want to work for Disney anymore, right? Maybe it was just a childhood dream. And then he started analyzing the thing that he was doing in his current company. And he said, you know what, Bruno, I love my current company, man. I could do that for my current company. That would be great. Okay, good, right? But I'm just saying is that if you say I want to work for Disney, and then there's none of the project there interests you, so maybe it's not Disney you want to work on. So I think it's better for you to find a project that interests you, and then maybe you're going to be hired by the company that wants you, right? Because of the project you like, and then maybe you'll be paid to do what you love for the rest of your life if you want to, right? So I would look for projects that are interested in you, right? And that doesn't happen only on open source, right? So here's one thing that's I really like. You know, I'm sure lots of you guys know or like, or you know, even your kids may like Legos, right? And so Lego has this cool website where you can propose projects to Lego, right? So, you know, it's like a community thing where, you know, you build something new, something different, right? And you post there, right? Just for people to see. So people can build what you build, right? But then people can vote on your project, right? So if people vote on your project, then it gets, then, you know, if it gets enough votes or something like this, I think people can pre-buy or something like this. I don't know. But you get to a level where if, you know, that Lego will actually build that project and make it into a product and sell it, and you get a part of profits. Now, here's the thing. I think that almost zero projects ever got to that level to actually be sold by Disney. I think that's like one or two, very, very small number of projects that actually were sold by not by Disney, by Lego, right? Very few projects achieve that level. But every time Lego needs a product designer, right, a builder to create Lego things, they go to this community and they hire people from there, right? Because they see your work, right? You're there, you're doing your work. They see what you're doing. You don't even need to interview, right? Hey, man, we have a job for you, right? Because you love your work. You want to work for us? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. Come on. That's open source, right? Developers do the same thing in open source, right? You know, another interesting story, and I have that story in my book, and is about by a guy named Daniel. And Daniel, one day he got a call, and the guy on the other side said, "Man, I'd like to offer you a job in this very cool company." And Daniel said, "Sorry, man, I can't work for you." So, you know, he said no to that job. And so, what happened inside the company, right, was that, you know, the guy came back and said, he said no. And the guy said, no. Why he said no? Go talk to him again. And they called him again and said, why not, man? You know, why don't you want to work for us? And he said, look, you guys, it's a full international team, right? And I don't speak English. And then they offered and said, that's not a problem for us, right? We're going to pay you an English teacher to come to your house every day so you learn English. We just want you to work for us. He said, okay, cool. Then yes, I accept. Now, think about it. Most times when you have a job offer, for example, right? And there's something the job offer that's required and you don't have, they reject you, right? Right away. You know, required, speak English. I don't have English, so I don't want to hire you, right? Required, Java. I don't have Java, so they don't hire you, right? That's normal. In this case, it's the other way around. They said, you know, we're going to teach you what you don't have because we want you to work for us. Now, what's the other side of the story, right? Because I know both sides of the story. So what's the other side of the story? Is that, one day, the leader of that team, he was looking at their GitHub account and said, who is this Daniel guy? We don't know. It's a Brazilian. Oh, it's the guy that works with us, right? He's doing some cool stuff. Yeah, but Daniel, he writes 70% of our mobile app. Why is this guy not working for us? Go there, hire him, right? Oh, he doesn't want to work for us. No, you don't understand. This guy is important, right? Go figure out a way to hire him. We want him working for us. And that company is Red Hat, right? So, I don't think Daniel works for them anymore, but he worked for them for quite some time, right? From Brazil, working remotely, because he was doing the work, guys. He was trusted, right? He was needed. He was doing it. And by the way, in that particular project, the mobile app was not even that important for the project, right? But it was important enough that Red Hat wanted to hire him and get him on the team, right? And so, yes, guys, when people want you and they trust you, they'll figure out ways to hire you no matter what, right? I always say that, I can talk this about Sun. I spent 4 months negotiating with Sun. For 4 months, they made me an offer. I said, no, it's not enough. I need more. They wanted me to do different things. I said, I don't want to do this. I wanted to, for 4 months, right? And we were negotiating back and forth. And then finally, they made a deal, right? That was awesome, right? I cannot say no. And by the way, that's from my opinion, is that there's only 2 types of offers in the market, right? The irrefutable offers, the ones that you cannot refuse, and all the rest, right? So if anyone offers you something and that's not a irrefutable offer, you cannot just say yes immediately. Negotiate, right? If you're going to say no, just negotiate as much as you can. The worst that's going to happen, they're going to say, no, we can't do that. And then that's your no. But don't say no, right? Negotiate. Even if just for you to learn how to negotiate, right? If you can make an offer, an irrefutable offer, man, it's all done, right? And here's the trick that you can use, right? You can say, because that's true, you can say, if someone offers you something, you can say, look, guys, I want to work for you, but I love the company I'm working for right now. I really like them. I trust them. I know the project is good for me. I like the people. I like my boss, right? Now, what you're offering me to get out of where I am and risk going working for you, it's less than my current company values me. Because if I go back to my boss and say, hey, boss, I'm going to leave, and this guy's going to pay me that much, he's going to make a counter offer, and I'm going to stay. So I don't want to stay. I want to go work for you. Are you making an offer? I think it's an interesting project. I want to go work for you. So help me out. Help me out by giving me an offer that I cannot refuse. And then if my boss tries to keep me there, I'm going to say to him no, because I have a better offer. And that does not necessarily mean money, right? It might be, I'm going to move you to another country. My boss is not going to move me to another country. It means that, you're going to have your own team. I don't have my own team in my company. My boss can't give that to me, right? It can be anything that you want, right? They can give you a bonus, right? They can give something that's going to make that offer irrefutable, right? And so negotiate that. Okay, so I was doing exactly that with Sun, right? So, I had my own company. I had no reason to leave my company to go work for Sun. So they work it, and they made this irrefutable offer. So 4 months negotiating, right? So they finally agreed. They finally got to what I wanted. So I said yes, right? The next day after I said yes, they had already sent me a ticket for me to go travel to meet the team. Right, I was starting immediately, right? Because I had my own company, so I could start immediately. One of the things that I negotiated, I said, okay, I can start immediately, but I'm going to spend at least a month working with my current company to move things over, right? But I can start working with you immediately. So they send me a ticket for me to go to Prague to meet the team, all of that. So all of this was sad, man. I was traveling to Prague already, and my new boss, right? She called me and said, Bruno, we pay attention to this, guys. We just published your position on the website. Can you please go there and send a resume? Right? That happens all the time. That happens all the time. And then you're online one day, you're browsing the Sun website, and you see, man, look at this offer. It's unbelievable. Man, I would love to work for Sun doing those kind of things. That's awesome. I'm going to submit a resume. I was hired to be the NetBeans community manager. At that time, it was the most important open source project of Sun, right? It was an international team doing awesome things all over the world. Everyone needed that. NetBeans was delivered. Like when you download Java, they would offer you NetBeans. I mean, that's like the biggest project ever, right? And how many people do you think submit their resume to that position, right? You probably don't know, right? Lots, right? I don't know either. My boss doesn't know either, because one thing that I know is that my boss never seen any of those resumes. She never looked at any of them, right? Because she had already hired me. She spent 4 months hiring me, right? So that's what I call, you guys, the invisible positions. They are invisible. And you know this so well. You know this very, very well, because if you're in a team, right? Let's say you're in a team, right? And then a colleague of yours says, guys, you know what? I'm going to move to another country, or something else. I'm leaving, right? And so he's not going to leave immediately. He's going to maybe a month later, because he's moved to another country or something like this. So the only people that know about this is is the colleagues, because he told you guys, and the boss, because he told the boss, right? Now the boss can't tell HR, hey guys, you know what? There's a guy that's going to leave, because HR is going to terminate the guy immediately, right? And so the boss can't tell HR, right? So they cannot open a position until the guy leaves, right? But the boss knows that a month from now I'm going to need a new person. So what does he say? He says, hey Dean, before you leave, man, do you have someone to suggest? Then he goes to the team and say, hey guys, Dean is going to leave, right? So does anyone has someone to suggest? And then then you say, yeah, Mikola, man. Mikola can really do Dean's job, great way, man. And so I called Mikola. I say, hey, Mikola, man, look, a month from now, I'm going to lose a top guy here in my team. And he says that you could be perfectly, to replace him. Would you be interested in working here? If the job is a good job, if it is a good pay job, it's an interesting work, it's a good thing, Mikola's going to say, yeah, sure, man, I want to work for you. If it's not a good job, Mikola's going to say no, right? And then maybe the job is going to go to HR. But if it is a good position, right, the best positions are filled that way, guys, because Mikola's going to say yes. And the moment Mikola says yes, that position does not exist anymore, because I already hired Mikola, right? And then a month from now, Dean leaves, right? And then I go to HR and say, hey, HR, we need to hire a guy with this description here. And then HR puts up a position, and I call, hey, Mikola, can you just apply to the position because you're hired? And then everyone else sees that, and everyone says, sorry, you're not fit. And you're blaming yourself. Oh, man, how bad it is. I'm not a good developer. I send my resume and they don't even reply back. They interview me and they say I'm not fit, right? It's all my fault. No, it's not your fault. It's because you're in the wrong process, right? Mikola is on the acceptance path and you are on the rejection path. And that's not your fault, right? That's just the way it works. So how do you get on the acceptance path? You become visible. You become the guy that people call when they need you. That's why when you share what you know, people know what you know, and they trust you in what you know. And when they need what you know, they call you and not someone else. If you are that person, you get the most amazing positions. If you're not that person, you are relying on jobs that you don't even know they exist or not. And that's a bad position to be. All right.
Good stuff. Thank you, Bruno.
So guys,
It's been 2 hours
I
already.
really need to leave.
Yeah. So my suggestion is that we all invite Bruno again. I mean, you can come tomorrow if you want,
Cool.
but maybe, and I also have an idea that if you look at the chat and at the people who have joined, we represent so many countries and continents even. So if you know anybody who is half as good as judo, 10% as good, a junior who is doing something cool at the college, just invite this person. Let him or her come and talk, because you can see how amazing it gets. And some questions, especially the one from Bilal. Wow, good questions. Thank you, Bruno, so much. Like, obrigado, amigo. Muy obrigado.
Obrigado,
so-
Nikita. Thank
So,
you, everyone.
can I very quick final note? Just figured out that the knowledge you are sharing with your students and with the whole community is so important. So maybe it will be worth to somehow make it part of college or university program. So people from the first year will know that's not only skills are important, but soft skill and visibility and sharing. And so they could adjust their mindset from the very early steps, maybe even from high school. So this way it will be more like will shift mind of new generations, and people will know from the early.
We can make it even better. Remember autonomy? Bruno told us we can all go and write an article about today.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then you don't need the university to approve it. They can pick it up when they have time.
So
We don't care.
Nikita, so since you're talking about, can I share my screen for a minute?
Yeah, I don't know how to do it. How do I?
It's just put my screen there. Yeah.
And maybe if you share the link as well, Bruno.
Right.
So
Yeah, so
I can
I'll share the link. Yeah. So guys, if there's anything else that can help you, the best way for you to reach me out is is get my book, right? So I give this book for free for you. This is the best developer year. It's my personal plan, the plan that I use to improve my career every year, right? So that's how I plan. Nikita talked here in the very beginning saying that I don't know how to plan. So that's the way I plan, right? So there's lots of good stuff here for you. It's a very short book, but it's an action book, right? That asks you all the right questions that you have to answer to really get your career going, right? So you can, there's the QR code right there or that URL right there. Just download the book for free. Nikita's putting there in the chat. Thanks a lot, Nikita. So it's a free book. And then. And what happens is that there's two things that are going to happen if you put your name and email in that page, right? Number one is that you're going to get an email with the book, right? So you can take a look at the book. The second thing is going to have is that you're going to get my email with the book, right? So if anything that I didn't answer here, you can just reply to that email, and it's my personal email, so I can go ahead and help you out with anything that you need. All right. So thanks, Nikita, for this opportunity. Thanks, Mikola, for the opportunity to be here. It's awesome that you guys are doing this. I really think that discussing open source and discussing career is such an important thing for everyone. I think that developers have this huge opportunity to grow unlimited, right? To grow beyond senior positions, to achieve the highest position in the market, to achieve the highest paying jobs, right? So this discussion you guys are having here will help everyone with that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. And that will be the end of the stream, but you can stay here and chat once. And Bruno, by the way, when people sign up on this page, will they be included in your newsletter? Because you have quite a good newsletter as well.
Yes, they will. They will. I do. Thanks for saying that, Nikita. So I do send almost daily tips about career that we can have. And I'll definitely talk about the things we talk about here today.
Thank you so much. And thank you all, friends. We actually had one fan in the chat. The person said that he's a fan. And I just want to thank everybody who made it happen. Nicola for idea, Bruno for doing what he's doing for the last lifetime.
Thanks.
And
I want to thank everyone, the whole team, especially Bruno, and especially for Nikita for your dedication. And I really want to wish you to get well soon. Really, it's my request for you. I really ask for you to be We need you.
Yeah,
Healthy,
I
happy. We don't need you.
yeah, either that or hospitalization. I will stream from the hospital bed then. Okay, see you all, and I'm